Okay. So back to our console. So you can see currently I have one server. But what I want to do with this one server is I know that we have not actually touched this, but I want to quickly create something from this web server, and it's called snapshot. Snapshot is just that I want to create a copy of the application that we deploy on this server. I want to keep the copy so that I can use it later. So what I need to do is go to the storage, go to this volume, click on it, and create, no, oh, sorry, let me go back. I want to select that volume precisely. So storage, volume. So I just want to make sure that I'm selecting the right volume. That's why I go through that side. So this is the volume. I can name this volume as my web server so that I know it's Coffee web server. I'm just going to save this. So what I want to do here is that I want to create a snapshot from this web server, and I'm going to call the snapshot Coffee snapshot. This is just like me, like I'm saving what I have on my server. I'm saving a copy of it so that in case if I need it in future, I will just use it. So that in a situation whereby I delete the server, but I still need the information on the server, then I can create a snapshot. So that snapshot is just like I'm creating a copy of the information I have on my server, including the server itself. Including the website. So now I have my volume. I have my snapshots. If you click on snapshot, this is the snapshot here. So what I want to do with these snapshots, I want to use these snapshots to create what is called an AMI. It's still creating, so we're going to wait for it for some seconds to create. Once it is available or completed, I want to create an AMI from this snapshots. Okay, so it's ready. This is it. Action, create image, which is Amazon machine image, which is called AMI from this snapshots. Then I'm just going to also give it the same name, Coffee AMI. I'm just going to say this is my coffee image, and I'm going to save. That's all. Save it. So I'll tell you where we are going to use this later. So now that I have my image ready, so now we need, remember when we talk about autoscaling, the first thing that we say we need for our autoscaling is launch configuration. And that is like a template that the autoscaling will use to create our servers. Then the second thing, we need desired capacity. We need maximum capacity. And we need minimum capacity. So the first one we need to work on is this, launch configuration. So to launch configuration, see under EC2, go to launch template, which is here. Click on it and create launch template. So I'm going to give this launch template, I'm going to call it Coffee launch template. It asks auto-scaling guide. I'm going to say yes, so that it can show me what are required. If you see, if I uncheck it, it's not going to tell me what is required But look at it here now. But if I check it again, it's going to tell me what are required for my auto scaling. So I'm going to like, okay. It asks me that, okay, for auto scaling, I have to provide the application image. So I can pick any image, but if I pick any quick image, that means we have to go and be configuring the server ourselves. But remember, we have a server that has already been configured. So this, whatever we configured on that server is exactly the same thing we want to have on the every other server that the auto scaling is going to create for us. So that is why I created an image initially so that I can now provide that image for the auto scaling group. Like, hey, I have an image. This image already include everything that I want on every server. So use this image to spin up every server. So how do I select the image? I have to go to my AMI. And I'm going to select owned by me. And the one that is owned by me is the one that we create, Coffee AMI. This is the one that we want to use because it's the AMI is the operating system that have all the application or the configuration that we need. Then the second one is the instance type. So I'm also going to provide it like, hey, make sure that you stay within the T2 micro. The key here, I'm telling the auto scaling group, when you are spinning up a new server for me, make sure you use this key. The networking, if you want, you can tell auto scaling group to create all the server in the same availability zone by selecting your subnet, but I will just leave it for him. Like, okay, when the server just pick randomly the subnet so that I don't have all the web server in the same availability zone. So I can select that. But if you want all your server in the same subnet, then you can select either of these subnets. Then the other thing that I want to select is the security group, which is also important. We have a security group. I will tell it to use the security group that we created. I think the last security group that we use for the web server is 10. Yeah, I want you to use this one because this one already comprises the HTTP, HTTPS, and SSH. So that's why I'm giving it to use this, but you can use any one. Then what is the other thing? The storage, I'm not going to touch it. Then all of these, I'm not going to touch it. So I just want the basic thing is what we can go. So we're going to create this. So what we've done now is that we have our launch configuration. And this is the configuration that the auto scaling group is going to be using to create our server. So the next thing now is to go and create our auto scaling group. So to create the auto scaling group, go to auto scaling here, click on it. And I'm going to do create auto scaling. So I'm going to call this one Coffee Auto Scaling Group. And I'm going to select the launch template that we created, which is this. So you can see all the information that we provide, they are already showing here. So I'm going to click on next. Then I'm not changing anything here. Here you can select the subnet or availability zone. You can select a subnet or availability zone that you want the auto scaling group to stick with. So I want it to stick with default availability zone 1, 2, and 3. So I just wanted to deploy resources in ABC. I don't want it to deploy resources in every other one. So I'm not going to select those ones. Then the subnet is this, the default subnet. I mean the default VPC. What other things? We have not talked about load balancing. Load balancing is going to be our next topic. But for now, just leave the way it is and click on next. So you can see here, this is our group size. Our desired capacity, we're going to tell you, hey, create 2. Let's start with 2. And the maximum capacity, let's do it 4. And the minimum capacity, let's do it 1. So every other thing, I'm going to leave it for now. Click on next, 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 and launch. Create auto-scaling group. So now, you see, updating capacity. If you go to our EC2 now, let me open our EC2 here. If you go to our EC2, remember, we only have 1 server running for our web server. Immediately look at it. It creates 2 more because we tell it the desired should be 2. So it does not give consideration to the one we have initially because we are not managing that with auto-scaling group. It's going to create its own 2. And this new 2 that it created, if you open it, it's going to be running the same web application. So by the time now that we have multiple users using our website, if the user base increase, it will just automatically increase the capacity along. And when the user base decrease, it's going to start decreasing the capacity.
Okay. Hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any need for us to rename the new servers that were created?
Yeah, we can rename it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can rename it. You can say Coffee Web Server 1 and Coffee Web Server 2.
And one other thing, is it possible that we have the architectural drawing, like the drawing for this?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you, sir.
So, you say, is it possible to have architectural drawing at the end of the class, right?
Yeah, or yeah, I will look it.
Yeah, so I will give that to you as an assignment.
All right, sir.
Remember, we did architectural drawing for our first EC2. So what you just need to have in the architectural drawing, I will architect it for you before the end of the class, but you go and do it in a neat way and submit. But let's finish. But before we finish, it's just like a 5 minutes in. I'm going to show it to you. So now we have the web server running, though they are still initializing. So we need to wait for them to finish initializing. Then what we just need is copy the IP address. If we put it here, although it might not work now because it's still initializing, but if we put, okay, it's even working. You can see 137 is showing our coffee. Let's go back. This is 137, and you can see it's web server 1. Let's go for web server 2. Web server 2, this is the second one. You can see initializing, web server 2. Copy it. Let's create another tab and put it here. You can see that also is running web server. So if our customer base increase and the auto scaling group create more server, it's still going to provide the same information, the same content for this customer. So customer 1 to 100 can be on web server 1, and customer 101 to 100 to 200 can be on server 2, and continue like that. So this is auto scaling. And when nobody is using this server, it decreases to minimum 1 resources, 1 server. So I'm going to, okay, let me show you something. Let me show you something before we round up the class. I'm going to terminate all the 3 servers, and let's see what is going to happen. Look at it. These are the 3 servers that we're running right now. So I'm terminating the 3 servers, and let's see what is going to happen. If you go to the auto-scaling group, let's open it. You can see the activities. You see the current activities that we have. It said it's launched 2 servers. This first server and this second server. That is the activities that the only activity that you have. If you refresh, look at what is happening here now. In progress, it's creating more server. Because why is it creating more server? It dictates that we turn that the 2 servers, the 3 servers that we currently have, they are not running again. They are dead because we terminate them. So because of that, and remember we told him that one server must always be available. So because of that, it's creating another server. So this is what it's doing behind the scene. And if you go back to our auto-scaling group, you can see it said, if you look here, it said in progress, an instance was taken out of service in response to an EC2 health check. Because he discovered that, oh, the health check, the server that we created initially, which is server 57, was taken out because it's not running again. We terminated it manually. And because of that, it's creating a replacement. Okay? An instance was launched in response to an unhealthy instance needed to be replaced. So it creates one server to replace the one that we terminated. And look at it, it's not creating 2 because the desired capacity has been terminated. So, and we tell them that, okay, the next thing is minimum. That is what you just need to create. And it's creating 1. And if you open this one, we're still going to have our, let me open another tab, paste this. We're still going to have our web coffee. So at no point in time, will customer get to our web server and they will not be able to see our application running because we have auto-scaling group doing the work for us. Any question? In our next class, we're going to talk about load balancer. And the reason for that is that if you remember, when we created 2 servers for our application, when we created 2 servers, when auto-scaling group have 2 servers serving our application, or what if you have 3 or 4 servers serving our application, each one of them is going to have different IP address, IP1, IP2, IP3, and IP4. Each one of them is going to have different IP address. How would the users know which one to visit? Are we going to send the 4 IP address to our user? Like, hey, if this IP address 1 is not working, try IP address 2, try IP address 3, or try IP address 4. Well, no company will work like this, or no web server will work like this. Even if you do something like this, user will not visit your web server or website. We need to give our user just one single endpoint where they can access our application. And the endpoint can either be one IP address, maybe 7.2.1.4.3, or a domain name called TheCornelis.com. Let's assume TheCornelis is the server. We change the IP address to the web server. So in this case, the user are not going to be visiting any of these. What they will do is just that they will visit the endpoint that we provide for them, which is either of these 2. They will visit this, and this will route them to any one of this. So the user will not know which of the server is being served from, but we just know it's requesting service and it's getting response. So the service that stands in between the user and the first web server, apart from the auto-scaling group is the one managing this, but the person that stands between, or the service or device that stands between the user and the web servers is what we call the load balancing. It's the one that is balancing the load. So this way, if the user send request, the load balancing is going to get the information and you can send it to any of these server here. So when we come back in our next class, which is going to be tomorrow, we're going to talk about load balancing and how internet work. Any question? All right, if there is no question. All right, go ahead.
I have a question. 5 minutes. I don't know if I can see after the class because of an email I sent you earlier. But my question is this though. In the compute, you're talking about compute, a bit cloud, is it cloud compute, something like that? You describe cloud computing as using IT resources over the internet in demand capacity or in demand delivery. Can you help us in the light of what IT is in the cloud compute models, explaining internet as infrastructure as service, and platform as service, infrastructure as code, platform as service, and
okay.
And the other one.
Although that's not a question related to our today's topic, but I will explain it for you. No, let me use this. So look at this. When we talk about, or can I hand this class so that it doesn't come to.
All right.
Yeah. So because this is the end of this section, so I will explain it, but let me stop the video.